say that God cannot die. Now, someone would easily rush to 1 Timothy 6 and verse number 16, which says, "Who only has immortality, dwelling in an approachable light, which no man has seen or can see." Now, if you go to your dictionary and look at the word immortality, then you would find that it means cannot die. But is that what the writer of 1 Timothy 6 and 16 wanted to pass across? Now let's look at it very keenly. It says, "Who only has immortality." Now that single word changes the meaning of what immortality means. Now this is the reason. Now, can die and cannot die are categorizations which refer to contingent beings. Now, a contingent being is a being that exists but is not a mass that it exists. An example is creatures like men and angels. Now, a necessary being God, is a being that must exist. So, if we look at can die and cannot die, you will notice that can die applies to men and cannot die applies to angels. So that means that if you interpret 1 Timothy 6 and 16 to mean God cannot die, that would also apply to angels, because angels also cannot die. So that would bring us to the conclusion that the writer of 1 Timothy 6 and 16 is not saying that God cannot die because of the issue of categorization. So it would lead to a confusion or an error or a mistake of categorization. So what does he mean by who only has immortality? That means that whatsoever he wants to put across, it is only God who exists in that categorization. So if we interpret that scripture in light of another scripture, then it will take us to 1 James 1 and verse number 17. It says that all good and perfect gifts come from above, from the Father of lights, in whom there is no shadow of turning. Now wait a minute. Now 1 Timothy 6 and 16 talks about who only has immortality in reference to light. Now James also uses similar language. So then we can conclude that 1 Timothy is talking about who God is. Now in reference to James 1 and 17, it talks about the Father, it talks about light, and it talks about who has no variable. Variableness means inability to change. So then we can say that the writer of 1 Timothy 6 and 16 is referring to God's unchangeableness. Now, Malachi 3 verse 6 says, "I am the Lord, I change not," because this is the only property that belongs only to God. It does not belong to men, and it doesn't belong to angels. So who only has immortality refers to the unchangeability or the immutability of God. So it basically means that God cannot change. So it would look nice at face value to say that God cannot die, but then it is biblically incorrect to say that God cannot die, because you're going to be including him in the same category as angels. So shalom and God bless you.